New York, 1890, before the skyline learned to rise, before subway tunnels carved through bedrock, before the city understood the cost of growing this fast. More than 1.5 million people are already packed onto this narrow island. The streets are crowded before dawn. The air feels heavy long before noon. On one block, an entire family sleeps 10 to a room. On the next, a mansion glows with electric light. This is not a city that has arrived. This is a city still becoming. Tonight, we are not studying New York. We are walking through it, through smoke and stone, through ambition and exhaustion, into the moment when modern urban life was being invented, without a blueprint. This is New York in the year 1890. We begin at the water. New York Harbor is in constant motion. Steamships arrive daily, their decks crowded with passengers leaning forward, searching the shoreline through coal smoke and fog. For many, this moment ends a journey that began weeks ago. Ireland, Italy, Germany, Russia, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Families arrive carrying trunks, cloth bundles, children pressed close. Everything they own is in their hands. Ellis Island does not yet exist. That gate will open 2 years later, in 1892. For now, immigrants are processed at Castle Garden at the southern tip of Manhattan. The inspection is brief, often rushed, sometimes careless. Names are altered, questions misunderstood, but most are allowed through. Because New York is hungry. Hungry for labor, hungry for hands, hungry for bodies to keep the city moving. As you step onto the docks, the smell hits immediately. Salt water, coal smoke, rotting timber, human waste trapped between tides. Dock workers shout as crates crash onto planks. Horses strain against wagons stacked high with cargo. The city does not gently welcome newcomers. It absorbs them. Leaving the docks, the city tightens around us almost instantly. Manhattan was never designed for this many people. Its street grid was laid out when New York was still a modest port, but by 1890, it is becoming one of the most densely populated urban spaces on Earth. Horse-drawn carts clog the streets, streetcars rattle along iron rails, pedestrians spill into the roadway because sidewalks cannot contain them. The noise never stops. Iron wheels striking stone, vendors shouting in dozens of languages, factory whistles slicing through the air. Above you, laundry hangs from window to window like flags. This is not decoration, it is necessity. Inside these buildings, air barely circulates. Light struggles to reach the lower floors. The city presses inward and upward at the same time. Now we enter the Lower East Side. Block after block of tenement buildings rise around us. 5 stories, sometimes 6. Built quickly, built cheaply, built as close together as the law allows, and sometimes closer. By 1890, more than 2/3 of New Yorkers live in tenements. In some wards, population density exceeds anything seen in Europe. Inside, conditions are relentless. A single apartment may house an entire family. Often, 1 or 2 boarders sleep there as well. Rooms are small. Walls are thin. Many rooms have no windows at all. Water is shared by dozens of residents. Toilets are often located in outdoor courtyards. Sometimes they are missing entirely. In summer, heat becomes suffocating. In winter, cold seeps into the walls and settles into bones. Disease spreads easily. Tuberculosis thrives in darkness. Typhoid moves through contaminated water. Memories of cholera outbreaks still haunt the city. This is not temporary housing. For many, this is life. Step inside one of these apartments. The ceiling is low. The air is stale. Cooking smells linger because there is nowhere for them to escape. A woman sits near the window, sewing garments late into the night. Her fingers move quickly. She is paid by the piece. A man rises before dawn to find work at the docks or on construction crews. There is no guarantee of employment. If he is turned away, the family does not eat. Privacy does not exist. Sound passes easily through walls. Arguments, coughing, crying, everything is shared. Life here is not lived quietly. It is endured. Follow the sound of machines. Entire floors of buildings are filled with garment workshops. Rows of sewing machines clatter endlessly. Fabric dust hangs in the air. By 1890, New York has become the center of America's garment industry. Most workers are immigrants. Many are paid only for what they produce. Workdays stretch 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours. Fire escapes are rare. Exits are few. Children are everywhere. Some play stickball in the streets, dodging carts and horses. Others sell newspapers, shouting headlines to strangers. Many work long shifts in factories or workshops. Compulsory education laws exist, but enforcement is weak. Families need income. Children provide it. A child may rise before dawn, work all day, return to a crowded room with little light. For them, New York is not opportunity. It is survival. By the end of the day, the city feels heavy. The streets remain crowded. The air remains thick. The noise never fully fades. This is New York, operating at full pressure. A city expanding faster than its infrastructure, faster than its laws, faster than its ability to care for the people inside it. And this is only one side of the city. Just a few streets away, another New York exists. Quieter, wider, richer. That is where we are going next. We turn a corner and the atmosphere shifts. This is 5 Points, and nearby, Mulberry Bend. These neighborhoods have already become infamous, not because they are hidden, but because they are impossible to ignore. Buildings lean inward, blocking out the sky. Narrow courtyards trap heat and odor. Air shafts provide little more than darkness. Entire families live in single rooms. Boarders sleep in shifts. Some people rent space on the floor just to lie down at night. Reformers walk these streets and describe them as dangerous. Newspapers sensationalize them. Politicians promise change. But for tens of thousands of people, this is simply home. This is what overcrowding looks like when a city grows faster than its conscience. By 1890, New York's conditions are no longer invisible. Journalists write about what they see. Doctors report on disease and mortality. Social reformers demand action. Photographers carry heavy cameras into the tenements, capturing images most Americans will never witness firsthand. Cramped rooms, exhausted faces, children working where schoolrooms should be. These images travel beyond New York. They shock the public. They embarrass the city. Laws are proposed. Committees are formed. Change is discussed. But the city continues to grow faster than reform can keep up. Now the city opens. We step onto the Brooklyn Bridge. Completed just 7 years earlier, it stretches across the East River like a declaration. Its stone towers rise higher than almost anything around them. Steel cables hum softly in the wind. Beneath us, ferries and barges crowd the water. Smoke drifts from chimneys on both shores. This bridge does more than connect Manhattan and Brooklyn. It connects two futures. One built on industry, one built on expansion. New York is no longer thinking block by block. It is thinking in scale. As we move north, the transformation is unmistakable. The streets widen, the noise fades. Brick gives way to stone. This is Fifth Avenue. Here stand enormous mansions, each competing to display wealth and power. Iron gates, private gardens, ballrooms lit by electric light. This is the world of the Gilded Age elite, industrialists, financiers, railroad magnates. Their fortunes are new, built quickly, often built on the labor of the city below. Indoor plumbing, central heating, servants who move quietly through marble halls. This world exists minutes from the tenements, but it might as well be another country. At the heart of Manhattan, the city pauses. Central Park stretches outward, carefully designed and tightly controlled. Winding paths, open lawns, still water reflecting the sky. On Sundays, families stroll beneath trees. Carriages roll past at a measured pace. Children watch boats drift across the lake. The park was created as a remedy, a place where the city could breathe. But even here, class is visible. The wealthy arrive easily. The poor move cautiously, aware they are guests. Nature is allowed here, but only in a managed form. As the sun sets, gas lamps flicker to life. The city does not sleep, it changes. Saloons fill with exhausted workers. Music spills into the streets. Alcohol dulls hunger and fatigue. Elsewhere, gambling houses and brothels operate openly. Police patrol unevenly. Corruption is common. Street gangs control certain blocks. Pickpockets work crowded sidewalks. Darkness creates opportunity and danger. For the wealthy, nights mean theaters and private dinners. For the poor, nights mean overcrowded rooms and restless sleep. New York does not experience night equally. Behind the motion of the city, power is quietly organized. Political machines dominate daily life. The most powerful of them all is Tammany Hall. Votes are exchanged for favors. Jobs are traded for loyalty. Protection is offered at a price. For immigrants, these machines can be lifelines. They provide food, work, and legal help when the system does not. But they also keep people dependent. Control is maintained through need. Reformers challenge this system, but dismantling it will take decades. By 1890, New York is becoming a blueprint. Steel frame buildings begin to rise higher. Plans for underground railways are discussed. Bridges multiply. Industry accelerates. The city is teaching the world how to grow and what that growth costs. Overcrowding, disease, exhaustion, inequality. Modern urban life is being invented here, one block at a time, and millions of lives are being shaped by it. Step back now. Look at New York in 1890. It is loud, chaotic, unequal, relentless, but it is alive. The people here are building something larger than themselves, often without choice, often without rest. The systems formed in these streets will define cities for generations. This is New York before the skyline, before the subway, before the modern world fully arrives. A city of tenements and titans, of struggle and ambition, of humanity packed tighter than ever before. This was New York in 1890, and this was a walk through the city as it truly was.